Hey guys, Brad here down in the Keys with Rygo and Kristen visiting this week, coming down to shoot some content for you guys. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to land your first board offs. So for the board off, I would say the most important part is how you're actually interacting with the board and when you're initiating the trick. So if you come into it like a normal jump, one of the most important parts with the board off that I've found is actually taking the board off early. So if you're taking the board off at the very peak of your jump, it's already a bit late unless it's a very large jump. So it really helps if you're taking off the board kind of like halfway to 3/4 of the way through your ascent to the peak of your jump. That way you have time at the top to, get into whatever position you want. If you want to throw the board out far away, throw your legs in a weird direction, however you want to style it out, you have time for that. And then as you're starting to descend, you now have time to put it back on and then get your kite into a good position for landing. So as far as the kite movement goes for the trick, one little tip that you can do to get a little bit of extra air time, which works especially well I find with bigger kites like a 12 meter, is you can basically oversteer your kite just a little bit past 12 when you jump in the air. And then now you have that extra room where you can steer your kite back over 12 in order to gain some upward lift while you're trying to put your board back on. Just be careful that you don't steer your kite too far forward so that you still leave room for a good catch for your landing. But it's one little trick that can kind of help you have a little bit of extra time, especially in the beginning when you don't have perfect muscle memory for getting the board back on your feet. Number one would be initiating the board off early. So you really want to be reaching and trying to take your board off while you're still ascending in your jump. If you're trying to take the board off and you're already at the peak, you're really not leaving yourself a lot of time to take it off. And by that point in the jump, you're gonna be required to move your kite in some way, shape, or form, since it's probably gonna start overflying you and be ready to be redirected for your landing. So step one, take the board off early and on the ascent up, and then you should be putting your board back on at the peak and right about when you're starting to come down. Tip number 3 kind of revolves around your gear. Initially, you can make it a little bit easier if you loosen your foot straps just a little bit. You don't want to go too far with this and make it to the point where you can't edge properly and your board's accidentally falling off on the jump. That wouldn't be very helpful. Nowadays, now that I've got the board off fairly consistently, I really don't loosen my foot straps. I kind of have them in a medium tightness, maybe a medium slightly loose. That way board offs are kind of always a trick I can do. But if I don't want the board to come off when I'm loading and edging hard, it still stays very well attached to my feet. Last tip would be have a handle on your board. The handle is definitely one of the easiest spots to grab and control the board in the air. You can do it by the fin, but I find the handle to be a lot easier for your first time. And then the fin is kind of like a nice progression from there. One other tip that I just thought of as well is you can also practice this not on the water. So if you just want to sit on the edge of your couch or even just sit on your back in the sand, you can practice reaching down, taking the board off and putting it back on, building a little bit of muscle memory so that you don't have to have your eyes glued to the board while you're trying to put it back on your first few times in the air. And that way you can get a lot of repetitions of putting the board on and off without actually, having to tack up wind, attempt another jump again, and maybe only getting 10 repetitions a session. Or you could sit on the couch or on the beach beforehand and do a couple warm-up ones and maybe knock out 10 of those before you even try it for the first time on the water. So I hope these tips get you guys to your very first board offs, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future content, and we'll see you in the next one.